So I got an interesting question today, and I hope I can answer it. I'm going to use some help in answering it, the internet. How does Ancestry determine you're African American with so many racially black immigrants coming over into the United States of America? Okay, so I'm going to say it in my words, and then I'm going to find the website and show it to you. Okay, so there's something called a founder population. And like if you take an ancestry test right now, you'll see they say African Americans are in this region. You're related to African Americans in this region. That's a founding population. Most ethnic groups go back a certain amount of time. A founding population of an ethnic group goes back more than one generation or two generations. If racially black immigrants come over and they only go back one or two generations, they're not of the founding population. And that's how they can tell. Okay, they're not of that ethnic group. Ethnic groups are set in after, I believe they said the sixth generation is set in. And African Americans go back about 12 generations here in the United States of America. So our ethnic group was set in double, triple time over. Okay. So, so just because racially black people are coming over, that doesn't lie. Like not only do I have ancestry with records that goes all the way back to the 1700s with records, even pulling my genetic makeup and my family's genetic makeup, where are they all from? Literally, it pulls from the southern United States of America, the entire founding population of African Americans. So we have written records, and we also have the DNA of the founding population, right? So basically, if records, not only records, but DNA, just stop two generations, that means where were your ancestors prior to just two generations ago? You see? And then it will trace back somewhere else. So that's how we can tell. A group of people who have proven ancestry going back at least 6 generations in a given region or ethnic group. According to genetic studies, most African Americans can trace their ancestry back around 10 to 12 generations, which roughly corresponds to the period when enslaved Africans first arrived in the United States in the early 1600s, meaning their ancestors would be from that time period. So yeah, that's basically how it works. Now, let's say some racially black immigrants come here to live, right? And they're third generation immigrants, right? Eventually, if they remain in the United States of America, eventually they will have married into, more than likely, because, okay, see, every generation they have children and children and children and children. More than likely, they're going to assimilate so much until they lose their own heritage, if that makes sense. Like, because when you marry into another heritage, like say they will marry into an African American heritage, and then their children are here, and then they marry into again, and they marry into again, and they marry into again. You see how that works? So as the generations go on, they will eventually lose the connection with wherever they came from, and end up becoming through marriage, having children, end up becoming dual heritage, and then eventually possibly just continuing to marry African Americans. So that's generally how that works. It's just like if I were to go to, let's see, Namibia. I'm African American. So let's say I marry someone there who is from Namibia, and then my children will grow up dual heritage. But then eventually, if I never go back to the United States of America to live, and they never go back with me, whatever, then eventually, just like every other, as generations go by, my African American heritage will be lost because I'm just one person moving over there. You see, I'm not moving over there with a load of people, my whole entire, entourage. You know what I'm saying? It's just me. It's me in a whole other country. So that's what happens here in America. So Black Americans, African Americans, our ethnicity here is just it's in stone. The challenge for people moving in is to remain who they are. That's their challenge. It's a mighty challenge. I've heard some immigrants say, I'm going to keep my culture. I'm going to keep my culture. It's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge because eventually someone is going to marry an African American, and they're going to have children and grandchildren here in the United States of America, and then they're going to become African American. So that's how it kind of works. I hope I'm saying that right. It starts off with any immigrant assimilating, and then eventually the next generation loses an accent, doesn't know how to speak that language anymore. Then the next generation. Then by the third and fourth generation, you see what I'm saying? And six generations in, right? And by 6 generations in, more than likely, you have had a dual heritage person in your family or multiple, and then you will have become fully African American with a heritage that is lost, and it's dwindling out pretty fast, if that makes sense. They would have to, like, say for instance, if it was a Nigerian American, they would have to consistently and always I'm not sure what ethnic group within Nigeria, but they would have to consistently always generation after generation make it some kind of law to never marry outside of. That's the only way you can keep from becoming dual heritage and from becoming, especially in another country. There would have to be some kind of rule. But eventually your downline, your posterity is going to become African American at some point. And because generation after generation, the DNA thins. It thins, and then the heritage and everything. So, yeah, that's how I think it's gonna work.